Do you ever scare yourself when you're working late at night on a creepy piece? No. It's a fun question, but ultimately, no, I don't really get a chance to because I'm so focused on volume and the, sculptural process in general. And then once you're done with that, the production aspect, the cutting and the keying and the getting everything ready, measuring out the tolerances and all this. It's very, very boring stuff that doesn't really give me an opportunity to get outside of my, work mode. In other words, I don't really get a chance to, get in my head and get creeped out. As much as I think that would be fun. Certainly would be very cost effective because then I wouldn't have to go to the movies all the time to get that kind of rush. If you could sculpt any horror icon, who or what would it be? The main one would be Alien. Alien or Predator. I would love to make those official pieces of the company. And that's pretty much it. What's the creepiest piece you've ever made? That is very hard to say. Mostly because maybe only like a sculptor or like an artist would understand this, right? Like we do the best we can to elicit a certain response from the people who are enjoying what we do. But as far as we're concerned, we spend so much time with the subject matter that sometimes it kind of, numbs us to the effects of whatever it is that we're doing, if that makes any sense. So, think of it like, I'm sure film directors don't really enjoy their movies the way that an audience would because they have all these memories of all the stuff that they were doing while they were making it, some good, some bad. It's kind of the same thing, like I can look at one of my sculptures and think like, what was I doing on that day? And sometimes I could think of wonderful productivity or amazing stress. So that sort of kills that potential, I guess. Which piece has been your favorite to make so far? Man, I feel bad because these are really good questions and none of my answers are particularly, I feel good. I'm trying to be as honest as I can, obviously. That's the whole point of the video series. I don't have a favorite piece. Well, short of the milestone pieces. I touched on that in the last video that we did. Pretty much anything that is like a milestone for my business are the pieces that like I hold in the highest regard. It really is that simple, unfortunately. Have you ever made a piece that surprised even you in terms of how it turned out? I would have to say not really. And the only reason I say that is because if I can see it in my head, then I already know how it's going to be produced. It's kind of like, how musicians or athletes, they do the same stuff over and over and over again. And eventually it's kind of like a muscle memory. So if you can see it and bring it to life, then there really is no surprise once it's done, like once it's executed. When it comes to art, that's one thing. But my work, sculptures are not necessarily art as I would define it. And so for that reason, there is always a very calculated and precision-based methodology applied to everything that we do for business. For fun or for enjoyment, I suppose there could be the potential for that, but it's been so long since I've been able to do anything for enjoyment that I don't really know what that would feel like anymore. But, at some point, I'm sure there will be something in the future. Have you made a piece specifically for yourself? Yes, quite a few, in fact. That's how this whole business began, honestly. A couple of years back, I went online because I wanted to see if there were any alien statues that I could collect. Because I had some many, many years before when my son was just a toddler, and no matter how much he baby-proofed stuff, he managed to MacGyver his way up to my shelf, and he broke a lot of my statues, and so I swore off collecting for years. And then I just one day, when he was already much, much older, and I was like, I think maybe I'll see about adding some alien stuff to the house. And I didn't find anything that I really enjoyed. I didn't like much of it at all. And, much like anybody else, I was critical of what I saw. My son was next to me, and I made a point to let him know, okay, so if I'm going to sit here and, complain over what I'm seeing or what I'm not seeing that I would like to see, I better put my money where my mouth is. And I did. And I made an alien statue and a graboid statue, and that just snowballed. And then I started doing commissions and this and that, and that's not the subject of this video. But point is, yes, I have made many things for myself. Ironically, I don't actually own any of it. I've sold a lot of it, but I don't own any of them, really. Kind of sad, really. What's the funniest reaction someone's had to one of your pieces? You know, so there was a commission that I had done a very long time ago, and the customer had said that he loved it, but what he loved the most about it, or something that he thought was very funny anyway, was that his son would come into the room and then he would leave because he didn't like looking at the sculpture that I had made. It freaked him out, and he was terrified to go into the living room, I guess. And the person who relayed this to me knew that I would get a kick out of that. Sadly, I did. I don't. Does that make me a bad person? Wanting to scare children? I don't actually want to scare kids, but it's nice to know that you can. I guess. I don't know. Can you describe your creative process from initial concept to finished product? Yes. So we pretty much do everything the boring standard way. You start out with your idea. You figure out what product line you're wanting to expand, and then you come up with concepts. So it all starts out as digital sculpture and ZBrush. From there, we work out the look dev, or the look development. Once all that's locked and the theme is all figured out, then we start going into actual production sculpting. That is where we basically get our silhouette down, we get our forms down, and then we usually do some sort of geometry optimization so we can make sure that as we're working on the high frequency details, we're not getting a whole lot of like artifacting or things that'll mess up the sculpture. After that, we go into like the actual production part of the sculpting and everything, and that is probably my least favorite part, but it is absolutely necessary. I've been doing it so long I can do it with my eyes closed. The cutting and the keying, making sure that tolerances are just right between the parts that need to be assembled, what have you. And then once that's done, we take it into our additive manufacturing process, and from there we post-process it, base coat it, paint it, assemble it, and then usually, while all of the production is happening, like actually making the raw material, raw assets, we're usually doing the product design and packaging and things like that, getting the boxes ready and all of that stuff. And then from there, we put it in the boxes and we ship them out, or we put them on the website and Bob's your uncle, as they say. What's the weirdest detail that you've ever added to a piece? Weirdest detail? I don't know. How do you decide on the size of each piece? So most of the time that has to do with production. We have a very, very efficient machine here in terms of like our production pipeline, and all of the cuties and the gnomes and our UFOs and our rabbit rovers, everything that is in the smaller form factors are 3.5 inches tall, and that is so that we can not have any disruptions in our material supply chains when it comes to product packaging and things of that nature. Any deviations in scale would force us to have to get other materials, other design. I would have to design different scales for different products, and I do not have the time for that at the moment, so it's kind of easier to have a plug-and-play system where the designs may change on the box, but the box itself needs to be something that is reliably replicatable so that we don't miss deadlines. But yeah, it's just standard stuff. Eventually, I'm sure we'll have other, sizes and things that we roll out, but the justification for getting all the material in order to do it, we have not met that threshold yet. Have you ever created a piece that turned out way creepier than you expected? I think that ties into one of your earlier questions, and to my knowledge, no. But really, in order to gauge that, I would have to really ask all of my customers and my viewers. They're the ones that would really be able to decide whether or not something is creepy or not, because there are some things that I look at, and I think it has a lot to do with this also. What people would consider creepy, I find visually and aesthetically alluring. I love the stuff that some people would think is creepy, because when I think creepy, I think something that kind of repels you or gives you the shivers, and that never really happens because I think because, growing up loving so many horrific movies and things like that, you find the beauty, the poetry in their form, and you think about all the people that put it together and the artistry and everything, and because of that, nothing is really creepy, in my opinion. If you could mesh up two horror icons in one piece, who or what would it be? Oh, that's easy. The Pred Alien. If I could make a Pred Alien, officially I would. 100%. Yeah, that was a no-brainer.